Hi, I'm Lance with Brando Consulting, Fishbowl expert since 2006. Welcome to this Fishbowl training tutorial. In this tutorial, we are going to correctly map part accounts. In the previous tutorial, we imported those parts from an Excel spreadsheet, and we also connected it to QuickBooks and set up the default account mapping. Now, the default account is great, but you really need to assure that each individual part is mapped correctly, especially if you have more than one inventory account that you're mapping to, or more than one income account that you're mapping to. One default account for all of your inventory items won't work. One default income account for all your income won't work. So in this video, we're going to show you where you can change that en masse and where you can change it piece by piece. Feel free to fast forward to the parts that are most applicable to you. I imagine this video is going to be a little bit long because I want to carefully go through the details of the spreadsheet and make sure it's right, because I'm going to do more videos with this file, and if those accounts are not right, then it's going to look really bad in the future examples. Just like it would look really bad if your accounts were mapped wrong. If your Fishbowl and QuickBooks are not syncing well, if things are going over to QuickBooks wrong, this would be the first place to look. The part account mapping. Look at both your default, but the specific account maps override the default. Override it. So I would almost argue that the specific account mapping is more important, if not most important, to get your Fishbowl communicating properly with your QuickBooks file. So let's get started. I have Fishbowl open and I have QuickBooks open. I'm going to pull up my QuickBooks chart of account and I'm going to look at the different accounts that I have to map to. Let's start with the most popular, the inventory asset account. All right. Now notice I have some sub accounts. I have some new accounts that I added since I added Fishbowl. I can tell because they don't have the account number associated with them yet. So I'll probably want to fix that. This is pretty common. When you start using Fishbowl, you might start using accounts that you didn't previously think you would ever use. You may have to change your chart of accounts and the way you set it up to begin with. Fishbowl rocks the boat. It definitely makes you rethink things when you connect to your accounts in QuickBooks, because it introduces some new ideas, some new ways of thinking about things. So in this file, it's a manufacturing file. So I've decided to have work in progress and finished goods and raw materials. So previous to the world of Fishbowl, we had work in progress utilities, materials, but we may have changed some things here. Work in progress direct labor, work in progress indirect matter, it says, okay, and finished goods. Okay. Now, if you watched the previous video, you'll know that I added a red flag account. It'd probably be good to repeat that in this video, or to just mention it. The red flag account is this one right here, wrong Fishbowl mapping. That means that if I'm going to map multiple accounts to one part type, then the default account I'm going to make wrong Fishbowl mapping. Okay, so I set up this wrong Fishbowl mapping as the default Just a catch, if I forget to assign the correct account if I create a new part number. All right. So you could create an account like this and call it Ask Your Accountant, or whatever you want to call it, red flag account, right? So that's what I called it. I called it wrong fishbowl mapping. All right, so we have a list of accounts we want to map to. Our asset type accounts. I probably want to go through and fix the part numbers. Now that I'm looking at this a different way, I may want to rethink the part numbers. It looks like I've got some 600 series down here, and up here I have some 500s, cost of goods sold. Expenses down here are 600s, and looks like some of the incomes are 400s. Fixed assets 1,000. Other current liabilities are 2,000. Other current assets look like they're in the 1,000s. So something got mixed up here a little bit. It looks like I may want to think this other current asset. Looks like most of my other current assets are the 1,000 series. So I probably want to stick with that. And this one is 1,200, and then we've got 1,250s. Probably want to make this something like 1,220s. That might be a good place to start. So I'll make this one 1,220, and we'll make this one 1,221. And let's make this one 1,222. Whoops. Right click, Lance, right click. 1,223. 1,224. Edit 1,225. All right. So I'm not recommending you do that. That was just personal preference. So you can follow along and do that if you'd like, but no obligation. I just have a little bit of OCD and like things to be, perfect. So, all right. So we've got our other current asset accounts, and then let's come down here to our income. I believe I have more than one income. So got repair service, installation service, and pool cover and equipment. It looks like those have part numbers already, so I probably get away with just leaving that alone. Now, I recognize a lot of my accounts don't have part numbers. I don't know if I want to get into that detail on this video and go through all the part numbers. I think I'm going to skip fixing my entire chart of accounts. That's not the purpose of this video. The purpose of this video is to map the fishbowl parts correctly to QuickBooks. And a recent or semi-recent update with Fishbowl allows us to be a little more flexible with changing the account names in QuickBooks after we've connected. We always want to double check and make sure the connection between Fishbowl and QuickBooks is working properly after making these changes. But in a recent version, it's made it easier. We break the connection a lot less than we did before, if just not breaking it at all. Let's look at this. We've got cost of goods sold, and we've got expenses. Let's scroll down, and our expenses here. So this is always an issue when starting to use Fishbowl, because in the Fishbowl world, you have a cost of goods sold and an expense. Let's go there. Let's just go there, take a quick peek, and come back. I'm going to go to the part list, and I just grabbed a random part. And you notice we have assets and COGS. Okay, This field right here is only used if this particular part is sold, like shipped from a sales order, sold. Okay, that's when that is used. Now if we come over here to this part type, we'll see that we have a lot of different types of parts. Let's say non-inventory. Grease, that looks good. I'll select grease. And you'll see that grease is not an asset, it's an expense, but it also has a COGS. So you're wondering, well, which one do I choose? Okay, expense, Fishbowl uses whatever account is mapped to the expense field when you receive inventory. So if we buy it and receive it, that's going to be the account that's used. Fishbowl uses the expense when you consume it in a work order. It does not use the COGS account at that point. It uses the expense account. I know that might seem wrong, and that throws people off. That's why I wanted to bring it up. So whatever you map right here is what Fishbowl is going to use when it consumes it in a work order. So this account will get the credit, while whatever the finished good is mapped to will get the debit. Okay, and the finished good is probably going to be an inventory type part, and so the inventory type account will get a debit. All right, so this COGS field is only used if we sell. This part right here is grease, so if we sell this grease separately, then Fishbowl will use this COGS account. Now you're probably thinking, okay, so what do? We want to break out our parts in, and we want to see the breakout of our COGS with the parts, not just the COGS of the finished good, because that's what Fishbowl does. Once you've manufactured it, and then once you've sold the finished good, then Fishbowl debits COGS and credits the inventory asset account. So if you want to break out and say, well, what's the COGS of all the parts that went in, all the part categories? You can accomplish that, but with a custom report in Fishbowl. Okay, that's how you accomplish the breakdown of all the part categories. So rethink that. We're talking about the chart of accounts and how you have it set up. Right now, you might have your chart of accounts set up where you have each individual raw good to its own cost of goods sold, maybe, right? Let's go back to that. We say, so here's our cost of goods sold. We have one general cost of goods sold in this particular one. Looks like labor is a cost of goods sold. Individual overages and shortages. So this particular chart of accounts that I have, this particular QuickBooks file, does not have what I mentioned, but you might have this broken up, like say you're a bottle manufacturer or a drink, a beverage manufacturer, right? You may want to know what your COGS are of the bottles, what the COGS are of the labels, what the COGS are of the ingredients, what the COGS are of the caps, right? That's what I'm talking about. You think about what you do, and you may or may not need this, and you may just fast forward through this part of the video because it doesn't apply to you. So I'll just throw that out there, okay? It's important to understand how and when Fishbowl uses these fields, so you know what account to map the field to, okay? This field is used when the part is sold. This field is used when it's purchased and when it's consumed in manufacturing. If we're talking about an inventory type part, that's a little more obvious. This is used when it's purchased. This is used when it's consumed. This is used if it's manufactured. And the only time this field is used is when you've sold it. Okay, so now that you have an understanding of what the fields are used for, next step is let's make sure they're all mapped correctly in mass. So we're going to export the parts onto a spreadsheet and then go through that spreadsheet one line at a time and make sure each part is mapped correctly to the correct account. Okay, so let's do that. We'll say File, Export, Part Product Vendor Pricing. That's the one you want. Part Product Vendor Pricing. Click Next. Next. And let's just throw this on the desktop for right now. Next and finish. Pull it up. And I've got some sort of error. It looks like I have to update. That's fine, whatever. Okay, so here's our account mappings. And I'm going to go through and correct these. Now I know on a couple of other videos I've talked about this. So this might be a review for some of you. But I've never actually gone through each and every one of these and made sure they're correct. I'm going to hide this. Now the standard cost is not going to be used, so I'm not too concerned about that for inventory type parts, but it will be used for non-inventory type parts. So when you export this, export the part product vendor pricing spreadsheet and export the instructions. Back here on part product vendor pricing, export these instructions right here. These instructions tell you a lot of what you need to know that I'll tell you in this video. So specifically the part type ID, you're going to need to know that. Unless you have this memorized, you're going to need to export this and reference that. Okay, I'll just throw that over there in case I need to reference it. Alright, so I'm going to turn filters on. That makes it easy. Turn filters on. I'm going to put my cursor right here and turn freeze panes on. Then I can scroll up and down and scroll to the right and left and still see everything I need to see. Nice little tip for Excel there. Now this part that is not active, might be able to just get rid of that if we have an inactive product over here. Yeah, the product is also inactive, so I can ignore that, clean that up. I don't need to do anything with that. Let's see if there's anything else inactive here. So we've got some other inactive parts. Let's see if the product is also inactive. Now those products are active, so what that means is I probably have some in stock and I want to sell them. So I've left the product active, but I've inactivated the part. Okay. So the product account over here on the right is important, but the part accounts on the left are not going to matter. Actually, that's not true. Let's see, the part account, if it's an asset type, this is still going to matter. So, and yeah, this will all matter because COGS is used when you sell it, and the asset account gets a credit when you sell it, and the COGS gets a debit when you sell it. Now notice there's no AR here. We can't map receivable to a specific part number. That's not a feature in Fishbowl. 99% of everyone I've talked to don't need that. So I haven't found it to be a big deal. Right, so let's go find our income account. There it is right there. I'm just going to highlight that in green so we can see it really nice. So income account is green. Okay. We've got taxable or intaxable. Or untaxable. That's probably something I should do a video on, because you can map the customers to tax and you can map the products to tax. And one overrides the other. And I forget which one overrides which. Okay, so we don't need the rest of this. Product accounts for products. So a product in Fishbowl is a part that's for sale. That's all it is. It's another name for a part that's for sale. If a part does not have a product, you can't put it on a sales order. Everything in Fishbowl is a part, but not everything is a product. Okay? The sales price is connected to the product. The income account is connected to the product. Okay? So let's come back here, and I'm going to highlight these two accounts. I'm going to highlight them in orange. There we go. Now notice there are no account numbers here. Account numbers are not mapped. We don't use the account numbers. You can put them for reference temporarily, but when it comes time to importing this spreadsheet into Fishbowl, Fishbowl is not going to read the account number. It's going to read the account name. And the account name has to be separated like this: parent account, child account. Let's make sure that matches. It says Fishbowl inventory asset, materials inventory. Come over here, Fishbowl inventory, stop, there we go. Fishbowl inventory asset, and then materials inventory. So that's our raw goods right there. And this is our middle goods, our work in progress. All right, so we're going to be mapping the finished goods and materials inventory, our raw goods. So let's go through and make sure this is mapped correctly. Freight is part type 60. That's shipping, and I don't need to map something specific, so I'm going to leave that blank. That's the first one we're going to do. If it's blank, it'll pick up the default account, so we don't need to worry about it. Let's come over here to our products, and while we're at it, I'm just going to go ahead and hide these fields I don't need. Hide these fields that we're not going to look at for right now. Okay, so there's our income account. Yeah, I can hide that for right now. I can come back to the price later. Whoops, I didn't hide. Okay, hit it that time. I'm worried. Oh yeah, I deleted it. Okay, there we go. Hide. Don't delete, Lance. Hide. There we are. So our pool, cover, and equipment. Sales, pool, cover, and equipment. This has got some weird description that tells me that I was just playing around, and that's not anything real. But I know that this part number, in a previous video, I made that the same part number as a SolidWorks design number. So I know that's a finished good. Part numbers with that I know are finished goods. So these need to be finished goods. I'm going to leave that. Hide these. I'm just going to hide the fields I don't need and focus on these ones. Okay. So this should be finished goods. This should not be materials inventory. Finished space, goods space, inventory. All right. Finished space, goods space, inventory. So anything with a part number that looks like that needs to be a finished good in my world. Unless, look at this. This has a part type ID of 20. Now this is an interesting thing that I was playing around with in a previous video. When you're manufacturing something, especially in the custom manufacturing world, you may want to ask yourself, do I want this on my balance sheet? Right? If it's custom and you're making it for the customer, once it's done, you may not want it on your balance sheet. So a couple of creative things you could do is, one, make it a non-inventory type part. That'll take it off your balance sheet once the work order is finished, but it'll still allow you to pick, pack, and ship it out of your warehouse. So that's like, say, a custom table that you're making, okay, if you don't want it on your balance sheet. Let's say you're in the world of installing. Like I have a customer that installs solar panels. So when they install their solar panels, they actually ship the goods to the place first, and then they assemble it on site. Okay? Once it's assembled on site, it's so custom, they don't want that on their balance sheet. It's not even in their facility. It's on someone else's roof. So in their world, they're creating a service. Their finished good is a service, the installation of a solar panel setup. So they create it that way. That's a service. So if you do custom work orders, you may want to do non-inventory. Now this is up to you. So if you want it on your balance sheet, then make the finished good an inventory type part. Okay? So those are your options: inventory, service, non-inventory. That's what's going on over here. I did a previous demo and some of these were service. So if this is a service type part, it's part type ID 20, then we need to map this to an expense type part. You may be thinking, wow, expense, wouldn't we want that as COGS? Nope, nope, nope. Remember, this field right here, let me just add something. I'm going to add another line here, and I'm going to say expense account. All right, that's just a note. I have to delete that before I can import it into Fishbowl. That's a helpful reminder that says this is a dual purpose field. It is the asset account for type ID 10s, and it is the expense account for all your other type IDs. Going back to this field over here, when we looked at your other type IDs to, let's say, non-inventory. Remember, the fields change. We have expense and COGS. So whatever you put in this field for a part type ID that is not 10 will import into Fishbowl into this field right here. Okay? So make sure you get that right. All right, let's go back. And so in these are part type ID 20, so we want to map to service. Let's go here and find our service. Professional fees, repairs, service. Where is our service? Where is our service? Supplies. Covers rent, repairs. I thought we created a service type account. Probably without the account number. That's what I'm looking for. Outsourced manufacturing, no, that's close. Overhead, scrap, shipping, internal use, no. Oh, right here it is. Service expense. Okay. Now that one, I would think I would just have as default. I only have one service expense that I can see. Service expense. So I come back to Fishbowl. If I want to see where my default accounts are, go here. Go to reports, reports, accounts, default account mapping, and service. Okay, we have a default for it already, so that's easy. Anything that's service, we want either to be blank or override to something else. Now, if this field is blank, then it's being mapped to the default service expense. If I change this to blank, then I don't think it's going to override it. I think it's going to do nothing. So I want this service expense right here to override and correct what I have. All right, so I'm going to put it there. Okay, so there's our service expenses. Now let's look at 21. That's our labor. Labor absorption. Okay, that looks right. That's mapped correctly. Let's look at 22. Oh, that's our overhead. Remember, if you want a quick refresher, go here to your notes that I had you look at. So 22 is overhead. Yep. I've just done this so many times. Okay, 22 is overhead, and let's make sure that the account we have it mapped to is correct. So we're going to go look at that report and make sure our default account is correct. So I'll go back to Fishbowl and go to the report and look at overhead. Overhead is mapped to overhead. That looks correct. Okay, then I'll filter and say, okay, let's look at our non-inventory. Non-inventory is a tangible part that you put on your shelf that shows up on the pick ticket and the packing slip. So be sure not to confuse that. The rest of the items that are not inventory are not pickable. They don't show on the pick ticket or the packing slip. The only items that show up on the pick ticket and the packing slip are the non-inventory and the inventory type parts. So don't get that confused. I see people just lumping non-inventory all into one big world. It's not. A non-inventory type item in Fishbowl is a very specific definition. And make sure you understand that. It's a tangible item. It's tangible. You can pick it up and move it. Okay, so we've got non-inventory here and non-inventory there. Two very different parts. One is, I know it's not a swimming pool. It's going to be a swimming pool cover because that's the world we live in. Grease. Okay, let's take a look at what our non-inventory default account is. Our non-inventory default account, look at this name. It says non-inventory test. So if we're correcting things and we're cleaning things up, I think it's time to get rid of that word test. So I'm going to go over here to this account, edit it, and say, nope, this is no longer non-inventory test. This is non-inventory. We're making an executive decision here on our chart of accounts. Non-inventory. Okay. I'm not sure what account number to make that. I'll come back and change it later. You can change account numbers without hurting anything. So change that to non-inventory. Then leaving this blank is okay. Just leave that blank. Now what about our COGS? I haven't said too much about our COGS. Maybe we'll talk about that next. We'll stay on topic and just do one column at a time and do this column for right now. Okay, so let's go to part type ID 50. I believe that is internal use, or no, that's capital equipment. Capital equipment. Car truck expense. Oh, that's mapped to mileage? I don't think we want that mapped to the mileage account. Car truck expense. I think I just randomly grabbed something. So where's equipment? I would think that would be a fixed asset. Yeah, automobiles and trucks is a fixed asset, computer and office equipment, accumulated depreciation. So we have this new account that Fishbowl created, and there's nothing in it. I don't know if we want to use it. I think we probably don't want to use it. So let's change that. Let's fix that. Capital equipment, we'll inactivate it. Okay, be careful. Don't just inactivate it and then stop. There's one more step after this. Look at it. Okay, capital equipment, but we know now that we want our equipment, computer and office equipment, automobiles and trucks. What's this over here? This is, oh, it's a CC machine. Once again, I'm playing around. This company is a pool cover manufacturing company. They're not going to have a CC machine. They're going to have something like something to cut material with, you know. Materials, razor, I don't know, something that, you know, cuts the pool cover, the part that covers the pool. I'm sure you need some sort of machine to cut that with, unless you do it manually. And that wouldn't go to car, truck, expense. So maybe just to keep this demonstration simple, we'll say vehicles, you know. And it's not going to map to vehicles mileage. It's going to map to the car, truck, expense. So we'll fix that. And that's interesting. I've got like this. Yeah. So it's going to be automobiles space ampersand space trucks. Automobile space trucks. Is that right? Automobiles plural. Automobiles plural. And this is never going to be sold, so I don't care about the COGS account. It's never sold. And it's a part type ID 50. I'm pretty darn sure that's a fixed asset. Part product pricing. $50 is capital equipment. Perfect. And then 60 is shipping. All right. So that looks good. We fixed that. Now let's look at shipping. And that is not mapped to anything. So that means we need to look at the default account in Fishbowl for shipping. And it's shipping expense. I know you have a shipping income. I know you have a shipping accrual. But this particular one is shipping expense. Well, that brings up a good point. You cannot import. Let's go to the shipping here. You cannot import this field right here. If you can, then I'm wrong. I've never imported that before. It's never been a huge need. Usually you have a handful of shipping type items. But shipping expense, shipping COGS is used if there's a standard cost for shipping, which there usually isn't a standard cost for shipping. And that's when Fishbowl uses the shipping accrual. The shipping accrual is used when you purchase shipping, and it's used when you have a shipping cost in the shipping screen. I should do a video just on shipping costs, to be honest. That's a really good idea. Just shipping costs, because they're their own little world. How Fishbowl uses the shipping accrual, the shipping cost, shipping expense, shipping COGS, and all that. So in the meantime, until I make that video, in your practice file that's connected to a practice QuickBooks file, you get the idea. Run a test and become familiar with how Fishbowl uses those shipping charges. Alright, so the default account for shipping expense is just shipping expense. Okay, let's go back to the spreadsheet. Nothing in COGS, so that's default, that's good. Nothing in income, so that's just going to use the default, which is fine. I'm okay with the defaults. Now we can take a look at inventory type parts. And our goal here is to make sure the inventory type part is mapped to the correct account. So I'm going to go over here and sort by part number, because I have these funky part numbers that are finished goods. I want those mapped to finished goods. That's good. And then, what is this? Top flight legal envelopes. I should not have that as an inventory type part. That was set up wrong. That should be an office expense. That should be type ID. What was it? It's like an internal use. Internal use, what type ID is that? Export, part product vendor pricing. Internal use is inventory, service, labor, overhead, non-inventory. Internal use is type ID 40. So this should be type ID 40. Now, problem is we can't just change it to type ID 40 and import it. I wish it were that simple. It's not. You have to delete the part and create a new one that is the correct part type. And that's probably a topic for another video too. I do something called putting it to sleep for parts that cannot be deleted. If it's ever been used, Fishbowl probably won't let you delete it. So I put it to sleep, and what that means is I change the part number to begin with ZZZ. Okay, I change the part number and I change the product number to ZZZ. And then I inactivate both the part and the product. Now, if there's bills of material connected to that, that's going to screw up the bills of material. You're going to have to fix the bills of material with that. And if you have a ton of bills of material, that's another conversation. You may just have to comment below to ask questions about that. Yeah, feel free to comment about any of this below, and I'll respond. So so what do we do about this part? It's the wrong part type, and it can't be changed in this import. Okay, so since we found it, we probably want to flag it. So let's just at least do that so we can come back to it later and fix it later. So I'm going to flag it right here in the description, ZZZ. Okay, then I can come back and search for that. Now, if I change this to ZZZ, it's just going to create a new part number, and it won't do anything with this part number. Right. It will not do anything with this part number. It'll create a new one. So be careful with that. And actually, it'll give you an error message over here because this product number was not changed. There is a special import for changing part numbers if you need to change part numbers. It's the, what's it called? The part product renaming is what it's called. Part product renaming. Awesome feature. Fishbowl came out with that a few years ago, and we've been happy campers ever since. That's an awesome feature. So you can change your part numbers in mass. Yes, it's awesome. Okay, but you can't change part numbers on here, so we'll make a note to come back to that later. Now this says manual cover. That looks like a finished good part number to me. And I can even cheat by coming over to my QuickBooks file and looking at the item list, because that's where I got this list from, is this item list right here. So we've got these services. We want to make sure those are the correct part types. We have inventory type parts, assembly parts. So these assemblies in Fishbowl translate into finished goods. Each one of these are going to be a finished good, and they should have a bill of material. Looks like non-inventory came over as non-inventory. That looks good. And you got some other charges that just really don't translate well to Fishbowl. We had to manually create those in the previous video. So anyways, these parts right here are going to be our finished goods. I could almost just say assembly. No. All right, I'll just leave it. Stop playing around. Give us our list back. Reset. Okay. Inventory assembly. There we go. So the 1000 MC, the 1500 PM, the 2000 PT, and the 3000 UL are all finished goods. Those are all things that we manufacture and sell. So we want this account right here to be there. Now remember, the default account for all of these inventory type parts is the wrong account. We even labeled it. We labeled it wrong fishbowl mapping, right? So we have to put something in every single one of these fields. So power manual 1500, that's a finished good. This is a pool pump. This one's a pool pump, so that's work in progress, indirect matter. Okay, yeah, because the pool pump is a sub-level. Let's turn that off. Okay, that was bugging me. So this swimming pool pump is a sub-level. So we build the swimming pool pump, and then we consume the swimming pool pump in the final assembly of the swimming pool cover. Okay. So the swimming pool pump can be sold separately as a finished good, or it can be consumed in a work order as a work in progress. Now, I'm kind of glad I ran into this because there's another video I did on class tracking. So this is interesting. We've got a part here that can be used as a finished good or a work in progress, but we can only map it to one account. And Fishbowl doesn't let you map the individual part to an individual account in the work order. Like when you're in the middle of it, in the thick of it, and you're closing out your work order, or when you're creating your work order, there ain't no account mapping there. Nope, nada. The account mapping is only on the part. Same thing with when you sell something on a sales order. There's no account mapping there. Okay, but there is class tracking, and that's what you do. You map the part to a generic account, and then you class track it. You assign the class and say, okay, this is the for this particular item, this is the class for parts. Like most manufacturers have part sales, right? A replacement part. There you go. A replacement part. So you've got your replacement parts and you've got your finished goods. So this is like a replacement part, either sold as a replacement part or consumed in the manufacturer order. A lot of different options, a lot of different things to think about. How do you want to track this with class tracking? So we've got to give this part a specific account. We got to give it something. Work in progress, indirect matter. What do we have over here in QuickBooks? Work in progress utilities, direct labor. So work in progress, this I'm sure is short for materials. You could change that to raw goods, but I think I might just leave that. Yeah, because some of our materials we may sell as replacement parts, and I think we know that. So if we want to break it out later, we can run a P&L by class or a balance sheet by class and see what's where. Yeah, okay. All right, any questions about that, please comment below. we can have some good conversation. Okay, so we've got power manual, ultimate. That's not an instructions manual. That means manually rolling up the pool cover. That's what that manual stands for. So those are our finished goods. And then we've got these custom finished goods. We also want those to be finished goods. Okay, so now we're into our materials inventory, our raw goods, our anchors, adhesive anchor, anchor base. Okay, so let's copy that up. Anchor pin, anchor spring, okay. So we got our raw goods. Box, half single, J box. That looks 1/2 inch by 4 inch single J box. That looks like a raw good. Center pedestal, raw good, raw good. And then, whoa, what's this? A cordless drill. That's something we use, we don't sell. We shouldn't have made that an inventory type part, in my opinion. That's either equipment or internal use. Cordless drill. I don't see how we would use that in. We wouldn't put that as part of the assembly. So that part is kind of like this one up here, where we put it to sleep and we go into Fishbowl and manually fix it. So in Fishbowl, the only part type that you can change is non-inventory to inventory, and you have to do it manually in the system. You can't change an inventory type part to anything else. You can't. The only change is non-inventory to inventory. Okay, so let's come back and say, no, this is not an inventory, folks. We don't want that on our balance sheet. If we buy a cordless drill, it gets expensed out, you know. And I'll leave that as wrong Fishbowl mapping. So we fix that, just like this one. Remember, it's blank because our default account for inventory is wrong Fishbowl mapping, blah, blah, right there. Okay, back to the spreadsheet. So we've got the drill, import, deck mount, Balder motor. Yeah, that's for the automatic assembly. That might be something that we build or something we buy. So that could be materials or work in progress. Deck mount, Balder motor. I don't think we make. Well, we made the pump. Might make the motor. I'm going to say we don't make the motor. I'm going to say we just buy it. 4-inch drum, aluminum. That sounds like raw materials. Power track, drive pedestal, raw material. Electric cord, 12 gauge, raw material. Granola bar. What are we selling granola bars for? It's not really raw, but I guess it's a finished good. We don't manufacture it. Yeah, that's kind of funny. That doesn't really fit into anything, does it? Labor, utilities, granola bar, indirect material, direct labor, materials inventory. You know, this is interesting. I just noticed this. The name of this account says indirect material for work in progress. It's not indirect. What I just did with that pump. Sorry, I'm skipping back. Back on the pump that I just looked at. That would still be direct, not indirect. So I'm going to edit that. I'm going to edit that. Work in progress. We'll just say materials. This is interesting though. This is direct labor and utilities. These are assets. It doesn't really make any sense. For what we're doing here, labor would be an expense, not an asset. Now, I've seen some people do some creative things, and that's fine. Where labor was an asset, that made the most sense to them to have it as an asset. But in this file that I'm looking at right here, I can't really think of how that would work. I don't think I'm going to use these. I'm not going to inactivate them, but I don't think I'm going to use them on the spreadsheet. I'm just noticing that. So anyways, granola bar, that doesn't go in the assembly. It's more like a promotional item. I don't think we would keep inventory of a granola bar in this business. You know, unless it was some sort of promotional item to to help with the customer when we're installing. Say, hey, would you like some lemonade or granola bar? Yeah, whatever. That's weird. I don't know what account to map this to. I could just put it here, Fishbowl inventory asset, no sub account, and it would show up as something other. I think that's what I'll do for right now. It's kind of weird, but I think that's what I want to do for right now. So I'll just put that there and then delete that. And up here, I changed the name of this. So I want to make sure I change the name of it there. So that will import. Alright, so we're back to materials, grommets, T-style hex tool, leading edge clear, motor stickers, then the actual pool cover. Seems like the actual pool cover would be a work in progress, like work order before work order. Yeah, the Poco. This is the actual cover. This isn't the finished the finished product. So this is after we cut it, I would say, and maybe you know, fasten the seams and do whatever we do with the pool cover. Okay, so here's another Rule pump. I believe we decided we're making our own pumps because we're just crazy awesome that way. Pulley bracket, that's a raw material. Pulley end casting. Rule pump. Oh, that's a clamp. And a rivet. Raw goods material. Okay, so you're gonna run into this if you get this from a QuickBooks file, where QuickBooks has part categories, and those part categories come over to Fishbowl as parts, and we just want to delete those. Okay, they're just categories, they're not really parts. So I'm going to say ZZZ in the description, and I want to inactivate it, or I'll just leave it as ZZZ, inactivate it later, come back and fix it later. Retainer hook manual strap, that's raw materials. Folder, rope, roller, screws, snap hook, spring, strain relief. Okay. We've got this part that's called test, but we're done testing things. So I'm going to come back and delete that later. I'll mark it ZZZ for right now. Track guides. Yep, all parts that go into the final assembly. Copy, paste, there we go. Somehow I pushed the bold. Don't need bold. Track top. Control C, Control V as in Victor. You are connectors, okay. Washers. Wheel assembly. Oh, wait a minute. Wheel assembly, that's like something we would assemble. I'll make that work in progress. Wheel assembly, work in progress. Okay, so we're done with our inventory type parts. We've identified parts that are bad that we don't want in the system, and I've marked them with ZZZ. And let's see if we're missing anything. Freight can go to default, that's okay. I'm going to sort the part type. And anything with a blank, I want a ZZZ. That's what I'm looking for. Yep, okay. Okay, looks good. And our services are either blank or service expense. That's good. We only have one labor type part. We might change that later. We have one utilities. That's fine. Swimming pool cover. Yep, that's that special case where it's where it goes out to the customer. Now, one thing to consider, you know how we talked about making the final good, the finished good, non-inventory, service, or inventory. Inventory goes on your balance sheet. Non-inventory doesn't. Service doesn't. You can get creative and map it to an inventory type part and put it on your balance sheet. But what I wanted to mention is if it's a non-inventory or a service or labor, if it's anything but inventory, then Fishbowl will use whatever the standard cost is when you consume it. Okay? It'll use the actual cost when you purchase it, but it will use the standard cost when you consume it. So let's look at that. So we're just going to look at items that are not an inventory type part. So I'm going to uncheck type ID 10. We've got 20, 21, 22, 30, 50, 60. Okay. And if it's a service type part, then Fishbowl uses the standard cost. So let's unhide that field. Unhide. Where are you, service type part? You're hiding from me. It's over here, I think. Unhide. Standard. Okay, yeah, where are you, standard cost field is what I really meant to say. Hide. Hide. Okay, so when we sell this custom pool cover, like the example I mentioned with the solar panel customer that installs the project on someone's roof, Fishbowl will know what the finished cost is of that. But the question is, what goes to QuickBooks, right? You've got a cost of goods sold, and you've got an expense because it's not an inventory type part. What cost is Fishbowl going to use? Where's it going to get the cost? You might be thinking, well, Fishbowl will use the cost that it manufactured. It actually doesn't. No, it does not. It uses a standard cost. So think about that. The previous idea that I proposed as an idea might not work specifically for you. And that's why I always think it's just so good to create a practice file, a Fishbowl practice file, and a Fishbowl QuickBooks file, so you can see how the data flows over. Seeing is believing, right? You really want to test it. Videos are great, but be sure to test it before you go live. So whatever is in this standard cost field is what Fishbowl will use when it debits COGS and credits expense on the very last step when you sell this item. When you sell this item, Fishbowl will hit this income account, sales of pool covers and equipment. It'll hit this AR account over here. It'll hit that AR account, and back here it will debit, and that the income and the AR is the price. That's the sales price on the sales order. But the cost side of things, right here, if it's a type ID 20 or any of these type IDs, then this account will get credited and this account will get debited. Okay? And the amount it'll be credited and debited is this cost right here. And that's only for your part types that are not inventory. If you're on the average costing method, your inventory type parts will credit the inventory account by the average cost and debit the COGS account by the average cost when you sell it. Okay. If you're on the standard costing method, though, then this standard cost field means everything to you. You have to have it there or everything's going to be screwed up, right? If you're in the standard costing method, your inventory type parts and all your other type parts need to have this standard cost field filled out. Now, just to bring it home, this standard cost field is what goes to this field right here. Right there. That's your standard cost field. Okay? If we pull up an inventory type part, it actually says standard cost and is used if you're on the standard costing method. Okay. So we most likely want a standard cost here. If this is like a solar panel installation where we view it as a service, we may want to leave this at a zero cost and just look at the Fishbowl report to see the cost. Because Fishbowl will have the actual cost in the manufacturer order screen. When you click on the costing button in the manufacturer order screen, you'll be able to see exactly what the cost is. Okay, so maybe it's good to just in this particular specific example, it might be good to just leave that at zero. So we know, oh, hey, where's the cost? It's not in QuickBooks. Right, it's in Fishbowl, you know. So on a previous step, let's say when you manufacture this, not when you sell it on a sales order, but when you manufacture this, at that point, you actually will see the cost go through to QuickBooks, because everything that's a raw good is going to be adjusted out. So all your inventory is going to be adjusted out, all of your raw goods, your labor, your service, all of those are going to be credited, and then your finished good on your work order is going to be debited. So if this is the finished good on a work order, this guy right here, these guys are finished goods, then when you finish the work order, this account right here is going to be credited by the sum of all of the ones below. Okay? A lot of things to think about. A lot of things to think about before you just go live with Fishbowl. You really need to test this out and watch it flow through to QuickBooks before you pull the trigger and go live. So yeah, feel free to comment below. Okay, finance charge on overdue balance. This, I'm glad I noticed this. This is a QuickBooks thing. This is not something you do in Fishbowl at all. So we're just going to ZZZ that, come back later, and activate it and delete it. Finance charges, yeah. Custom work, this is interesting. Service, okay. Okay, so this is the hourly rate for custom work. This looks right. Let's see what the unit of measure is for this. Unhide, let's look at the unit of measure. Custom work hourly. Okay, so what you're saying is it costs your company $50 an hour to perform custom work, like repairs. Okay, so there's some repair here, some initial labor. These are some, they say labor, but in here they're set up as service, so that might need to change. That's something to think about. We've got direct labor. This may be the old QuickBooks thing because QuickBooks doesn't have labor that I saw. Yeah, it's just service. Yeah, it has a bunch of service. And if we create a new part in QuickBooks, these are the types of parts, and none of them say labor. Labor is something that you would consume in a work order. Service is something you would buy from a vendor or sell to a customer. That's why I'm pausing to reflect, because that says repair labor. That sounds to me more like a service. Whatever. It costs you $30 an hour to hire a laborer to go out and service and repair the custom pool. Let's look at the income. Make sure we're making money. Where is the price? I think I hid that filled. It's time to unhide it. Hid price. Yeah, okay. All right, so now we're looking at stuff that we sell. We want to make sure we're making money. Sales, pool cover, and equipment. Where is the income accounts in Fishbowl? Okay, here we go. Income, sales. Okay, here we go. Sales, retail. Wrong Fishbowl mapping. Yikes. Okay, so this tells me that any part that we sell, we need to specify what account it goes to. So we're gonna need to do that. Let's finish with these accounts first. All right, so there's a cost, and we're gonna have cost of goods sold the same all the way down. Painting service, okay, that's interesting. So we're doing that by the dollar. That's good. If the unit of measure is $1, then the standard cost needs to be $1. Coating charge, this looks like something we just buy. We don't sell it. So if we're going to send something out to be powder coated, we just buy that. So I think that's okay if it doesn't have a standard cost. No, it's not okay because we will probably consume powder coating in a work order. No, we're okay. As long as we don't consume it in a work order, we're okay. Warranty service doesn't cost anything. Well, it costs something, but you know what I'm saying. Utilities. Okay, so we've got some costs on here. Grease, 25 cents an ounce. Okay. Swimming pool cover. That looks like something custom made. Equipment, vehicles. This is a fixed asset. Yeah, this is something different. We don't need a standard cost for that. It's a fixed asset. Freight and shipping, you don't need a cost for freight and shipping. That's handled differently. Do not need a cost for freight and shipping. So this swimming pool cover, I think we can treat this the same as these up here. The total expense of the pool will be recognized when you finish the work order instead of when you sell it. So if we have this at 0, it will sell with a price but not with a cost. So if you want to see the sales margins, you're going to have to create a custom report. The sales margin for this won't show up in QuickBooks. If you want to see sales margins, then it needs to be an inventory type part. If you want to see sales margins in QuickBooks, it needs to be an inventory type part. Or if you have a standard cost that you're good with, you can use a standard cost and plunk a standard cost in there, and then you'll get your margin, your sales margin. And you'll have a COGS on your P&L for your gross, for your gross income, your gross profit. So far it looks like I'm pretty good with what I'm trying to do in this particular file. We just need to come over here and make sure that anything that's a product, anything I sell is mapped to an income account. So anything that's a finished good, I believe, needs to be sold. And anything that is like a replacement part needs to be sold. So we might sell everything. We really might. I think most people would just sell everything almost. Replacement parts. Custom work. Yeah, it looks like we sell just about everything. Direct labor, labor absorption, I think that's probably the only thing we wouldn't sell. Let's see if we have a product for that. No product number for it. Okay. So if you sell it, you need a product number for it. Right here. Okay? You need a product number if you sell it. So I'm going to take off labor and fixed asset. We don't sell that. We don't sell utilities. We sell inventory, we sell service, we sell non-inventory, we sell shipping. Okay, so now let's come over here and look at the income accounts and look at the product numbers. So we've got product numbers for some of these, but not all of these. We definitely need product numbers for these. And usually what we do is just make the product number match the part number. I think that's what we have down here. Now, be careful with this. The main thing you don't want to do with products is make your product number the same as your vendor part number. With the day and age we live in, people can just Google your product number and bypass you and go straight to your vendor. So just make sure that your product number is not the same as your vendor part number. Here's our vendor part numbers over here. And it looks like pretty much our vendor part numbers are a different part number. And this is weird. Baxter Computer Repair Company. I'm doing something funky over here. I'm doing something funky over here that I'll need to fix later. But we know how to fix that, right? So these finished good parts that we manufacture, sort A to Z and just grab the finished good. We don't buy these from vendors. So I'm just going to put ZZZ there. I think I was just playing around in another video. Income account. Okay. Ooh, looks like I missed something here. What's this? Finished asset. Oh, that's that granola bar. How funny. Let's take the colon off. That's going to give us an error message. Okay, that looks good. I believe we're selling granola bars. Income account. Okay, we'll look at that income account in just a second. Clear the filters. Let's just clear all of these filters. Clear filters. Okay. That leaves the filter on but clears them. I really like that Excel feature. So now we can take our products and say, yeah, we sell all this. So I'll just click equals, come over here, hit equals, and then say, yep, we sell our replacement parts, we sell the finished goods, we sell anything we can, right? We're in the business of making money. So yes, we want to sell. Coding charge. No, we don't sell coding charges. Installation repair. Yeah, we sell that. Yes, we sell custom work. Sell custom work. We don't sell labor. We might sell painting services. Utilities, grease. Yeah, we probably sell grease. We don't sell our equipment. Okay. We don't sell our equipment. We don't sell utilities. We don't sell labor. And those are going to be inactivated. And we don't sell coatings charge. Okay, so everything we do sell, we want a description for it. So we'll take off the blanks and just say description. We want you to match. Let's come over here. Yep, description. Got something funky going on down below. Okay, there we go. All right, so description. We want you to match the part number. And oh, no. We want you to match the part description. I want the cells description to match the part description. Hover over the little green square, double click, Shazam, like that. And yeah, we want the description to keep going. Okay. Bucket, $20 per bucket. No, we don't want to tell the customer how much we bought the bucket for. That's a weird description. We need to fix that. So we'll fix that. Let's fix that. And this kind of brings up a good, interesting point, though. So we buy it by the bucket over here, and we store it by the bucket. But if we want to sell something to the customer, we might not want to sell it by the bucket. We might want to sell it by the tube, which is a different unit of measure. So that's done in a different spreadsheet. If your product unit of measure is different than your part unit of measure, then you need to import your parts and your products in two separate spreadsheets. There's a part import and a product import. Okay. So I'm gonna leave this off because I don't think we'll ever sell a bucket of grease to a customer. That's just silly. Okay, so let's check and make sure that none of our product numbers match our vendor part numbers. In order to do that, we'll come over here and I'm going to put in a custom field right here and say equals vendor part number equals again, scroll over, select the product number, hit enter. So equals select tells us whether or not two fields match each other. If it says false, then they don't match each other. If it says true, then they do match each other. So it looks like we have some trues in here. Remember, we don't want the vendor part number to match the product number because the customer can get online and get around us and go straight to the vendor. So we have a few. Wait a minute, something's screwy. Oh no, it's not. Okay. So the ones that are blank, that's fine. Guess we don't buy them or sell them. The ones that are not blank, like this anchor base, manual cover. So these ones are good. This is a mistake. This is a mistake. These are something that we manufacture. We don't buy from the vendor. So I'll just put ZZZ on these to come back and fix that. But these two little replacement parts here, central pedestal and anchor base, yeah, if that's the vendor part number, then I can see why we'd want our part number to be that. But we would want to change our product number. We don't want that to be the same. So think about what you want it to be. Anchor base. Then what's the name of this company? Name of this company is, I think, just Sample Manufacturing. Yeah. Okay, well, let's do this. Let's do this. Let's just put a 1 in front of it. Oh, it's going to be tricky. Okay. Let's replace the formula with the value and then put a 1 in front of it. All right. So now our vendor part numbers do not match our product numbers. So we're good. Okay. Now let's look at the income accounts. We've got sales, pool cover, and equipment. Sales, pool cover, and equipment. Product numbers. Anything that's a product number needs to have an account mapped to it. So I'm going to go to QuickBooks and take a look at what the account is. We've got other income. We want just plain income. Here we are. Repair service, installation service, pool covers and equipment. Okay, so that's a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. That's nice. So any inventory type part that is a resell gets this. Pool cover and equipment. Sales, pool cover and equipment. Sales, pool cover and equipment. So if it's an inventory type part, generally that's what we want it to get, is sales, pool cover and equipment for all inventory type parts. Let's see, did I sort that or did I filter it? I just sorted it. Let's filter it. Okay, so for all of our inventory type parts, bloop bloop, that'll just auto-populate it with pool cover and equipment. And then let's look at our other part types. Our service, our non-inventory, and our, what's that, shipping? Shipping we're okay. That has its own default income account. Our shipping type part. Yeah, that's just the last one. Okay, so where do these go? Custom pool cover. That's still sales pool and cover, pool cover and equipment. Installation labor, warranty, installation repair, custom work, paint service. So those are different. That's not equipment. We can leave that blank because the default account is correct. Swimming pool cover. Oh, we want that to be that. But then we have these ones. What accounts are those going to be? Installation service, repair service. Installation service and repair service. Sales, repair service. Let's do that one first. Installation labor, warranty. That sounds like repair. So sales, repair space service. And installation repair is repair. And then custom work, painting service, all of that looks like installation service. So sales, installation service. Sales, installation service. Now notice there's no space before or after the colon. No space. Custom work, paint service. Okay, I think we are fine. I think we're ready to test and import. Should we import this baby? Yeah, let's import it. Okay, so let's make sure we're ready to import it. This expense account right here, we don't use that. We don't do that for the import. Any other funky things? Did we do anything else that was funky and weird? Nope. Click save. All right. And it's the part product vendor pricing spreadsheet on the desktop. So I go file, import. And before we do this, I always like to show it working. So we'll pull up a part and let's see if I can find one that's mapped wrong. Okay, there's one that's mapped wrong. So we're going to import this. I'll come back, click refresh, and we'll see it come to life. So import part product vendor pricing. Click next, next. Desktop. Oh, yep, we already have it selected. Okay, 80 parts. Okay, we get an unknown account reference because we were playing around with the accounts and we changed some of the names. So we need to reconnect Fishbowl to QuickBooks just to bring Fishbowl back into sync with those account names that we updated. So let's go to accounting and accounting integration, configure, next, next, use file currently open. It's going to connect to QuickBooks. And we've got our connection. Great. That's all we have to do. That's all we have to do. Just reconnect. Fishbowl will see those accounts. Now let's import. I'm guessing that fixed the problem. Since we've tried the import once before, we actually don't have to click next here. We can just click finish because it remembers where we did it last. We still have the problem, so let's dig a little bit deeper. Fishbowl inventory asset, no colon, no space, finished goods inventory. So that's just wrong. So we just miskeyed. So yeah, that should have a colon in it. Doesn't have a colon. Copy, finished goods inventory. There we go. Click save. And let's try this again. Maybe I have to go back. Okay. Oh, it doesn't like our work in progress. Finish. Fishbowl inventory asset colon work in progress. What's wrong with that? Work in progress dash material. dash material. I think I remember doing that. So let's make sure we change all the work in progress to work in progress dash material. Dash material. Okay, save. Now you might be wondering, hey Lance, you forgot these columns over here. What are we going to do about these columns? Nothing. Unless you want to specify which account your cycle count adjustments and scrap go to, those will usually just go to the default account, so I just left those. Okay, so save the file, pull up Fishbowl, and do the import again. Oh, we still have this asset finished good. I still missed that. There it is down here. So let's come up here, copy that, and paste it. Ah, no, I don't want to paste it there. There we go. Okay. Save it. Don't forget to save it. Go to Fishbowl. Okay. Goes back. Click Finish again. Sales : installation service. Okay, what's wrong with that? Sales : installation service. I miskeyed something. Sales : installation service. I probably misspelled something. Installation space service. Sales : sales. Oh, that's over here under products. Sales : oh, installation has one L. I misspelled it. Installation service. There we go. Okay. Yay! All right. Now we go back to here, and remember that. We'll click refresh, and we've got it. So, whew, that was quite a chore, huh? You can see why people don't do it. Or they forget to do it, or they don't realize they need to do it. So budget that into your time, into your project. How long is your list? You see how long it took me to do it, and I had like 80 parts on my list. I don't have that many parts. Look at how many parts I have. I got 61 parts, and this video is a little more than an hour and a half long. So take that into consideration. How many part numbers do you have? How many different accounts do you have to map them to? Do you have to map them to different accounts? If your default accounts are okay, then great. It's not going to take too long. But don't skip this step. Don't want to skip this step because, man, the bigger your file is, the bigger the mess is going to be in QuickBooks if you don't carefully go through and map all these accounts. I keep talking about having a practice file, right? So if you have a practice file, you're going to want to map these accounts in your practice file, not your live, your practice. And then once you've tested everything, then create a new file, blank. Make it blank. Export all of your list type data that you want, like export your parts, your products, your vendors, your customers, and your accounts. Okay. Now, obviously, we made some changes to the chart of accounts. You'll want to make those changes to the practice file first before you start screwing with your live file. Do them in your practice file. Then get approval, talk to the people around you, make sure everyone's on board. Then make those changes to your chart of accounts in your live file. Okay? After you fool around in the practice file, get everything the way you want it to be, then go to your, sorry, I should be talking like this. Then go to your live QuickBooks file, change the chart of accounts. Okay. Once you've got that, then you're ready to start and create your live file. And basically what that looks like is you'll have two installs of Fishbowl, your practice install and your live install. You create a new blank database. That's going to be your live file. Export your product vendor pricing spreadsheet out of your old file. Export your customers, your vendors. If you have different units of measures between parts and products, then export your part spreadsheet and your product spreadsheet and your vendor part spreadsheet separately, right? Hopefully this is making sense. Your units of measure, export those, your locations, right? So that's how you create a new live file, is you create a blank one, export everything out of your practice, import it into your live. So before you can export and import your accounts from your practice file that you so carefully and painstakingly set up, you need to connect your live Fishbowl file to the live QuickBooks file. Okay, you're not going to be exporting or moving data over to the live QuickBooks file, so don't worry about that. You're just going to connect it to pull those accounts over. That's the only way to get the accounts into Fishbowl, is to connect Fishbowl to QuickBooks. There's no other way. There's no account import that you can use. Only the part account assignment import. All right. I have videos on how to set up a practice file. I have videos on how to connect Fishbowl to QuickBooks. So take a look at those, watch those. Feel free to comment below if you have any questions. And if you made it through this video, then you're awesome. And good luck on getting your file set up correctly the first time. Probably one of the most important parts of your project is to get that file set up correctly, and you're not going to know if it's set up correctly unless you test it out. So thanks for joining us today at this setup number 4. I think I'm going to make this setup number 4 and make the barcode setup number 5. Thanks for joining us today. And make sure to comment below if you have any questions.